J. Hooker, and of course, Mr. Hooker, before we had our first commercial break, you were talking about your relationship with Mr. Bobby Kennedy, and
right.
Of course, let's pick it up at that point.
This boy David was sitting on my lap, and he was looking out where the sirens were going. We were going to the airport, and I said to Bobby, you know, took my hand behind David's. I said, you know, the only thing that really worries me, Bobby, is what do you think about that? And I hugged David. I had lived at Bobby's house for about 6 months in 1961, and I had seen those little kids from the very, you know, so when they were so young. And David and I had now grown up and a little bit. He was just 10 years old or whatever. And I said, I'm very concerned about this. And Bobby looked at me and he said, don't talk about that. He says, I've made up my mind. What will be, will be. And it wasn't but 3 weeks. So I walked in a hotel room. I'd been to New York on business. I walked in a hotel room and turned on television and sat down to watch the victory in California. And Bobby got it. I'll never forget that the longest day I live. Ultimately, David was the one who got involved with the heroin. And Ethel called me, I guess in 70, maybe 75, 4 or 5, and asked me, I at that time was chairman of the board of STP, the oil additive company. And I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And she said, David's having this big trouble with this dope. Can I send him down there to stay with you for a while? And I said, absolutely. So he came down, stayed a few months, and I tried every day. I talked to him every day, every night, and to try to get him off that dope, and never could. And of course, he ended up dying as a consequence of the dope. But I love Bobby, and I loved and do still love Ethel, and all the children. I have a great affection for them because of their father, and so I got my start in politics with the Kennedys, and then in 70, Bobby was assassinated. Of course, 68, Bobby was assassinated. 70 race came. I'd also been very much an admirer of Martin Luther's. I had some great friends in the Afro-American community. One named Ben Hooks from Memphis.
I know. President of NAACP.
Yeah, oh yeah, great man. And a lawyer down there by the name of A.W. Willis, another lawyer by the name of Russell Sugarman. All great people, and all deeply involved in my campaign. So then the 70 campaign came, and the issue about the war was on the table. And I had the deep feeling that the war was terrible wrong for America. But that was a feeling not shared by most Tennesseans. And so I got in that campaign with my eyes wide open, run for governor. Albert Gore Sr. felt the same way about the war. Nixon was furious at Gore Sr. Gore Sr. was a senator and was not voting in favor of many of the Nixon war resolutions. And so Albert Gore Sr. and I were on the same side about that. And the 70 campaign was a very brutal one because the war was so deep an issue. And again, if I had my choice, have been elected governor in 70, the cost of which would have been to have abandoned my position about the war, I wouldn't have done that. I have the very, I think as good a feeling as you can have in life. And that is that in political life, I have done the very best I could. And the fact that I didn't get elected was secondary to me to the proposition that I had an opportunity to play a leadership role, and I tried to lead in a direction that I thought was right, and that those directions have turned out to be right. The advancement of civil rights has been very important in America, and I like to think I was involved in that up to my eyeballs. And I was against the war at the crucial moment. And then when, after Bobby had been assassinated in 68, I got very involved with Hubert Humphrey. And I had the opportunity to get to be great friends with Hubert. You know, it's not who you know in life, it's how you know them. What is the context of the relationship? And I gave, talk about campaign contributions, which is my great passion now. I gave Hubert Humphrey $150,000 when he ran for president in 1968.
I remember that
campaign. And I had access to him. I remember when I gave him the money, I said, now, Mr. Vice President, I'm going to give you this money, and I want something in exchange for it. And he said, what do you want in exchange? And I said, I want the right for 10 minutes to tell you exactly what I think on the question of the Vietnam War. And he laughed and he said, this was when I was just getting to know him in the early part of October. I didn't get involved with him until the early part of October. The election was in November, so it was maybe 30 days. And he smiled and he said, John Jay, said, let me be clear. I've got more time if you've got more money.
That's Mr. Humphrey.
And I said, no, I can tell you everything I know in 10 minutes. And I want to tell you this, that you're the worst beat man that ever ran for president. You're going to lose awfully. And the reason you're going to lose is because you're still Lyndon Johnson's little boy. You won't break with the Johnson administration. You won't come forward and say you're going to stop the bombing in Illinois. And you won't end this war. And if you'll come and tell the people that you're ready to end this war, if you're president of the United States, you'll get back in the contest. And if you get back in the contest, you just might beat him. John Siegenthaler was present at that meeting at the Executive Inn in Louisville, Kentucky, between Hubert Humphrey and myself. Ultimately, 4 or 5 days later, the Vice President went to Utah, Salt Lake City, made the speech in which he said that he would stop the bombing of Hanoi. And from that moment on, he did get back in the race, and as you will remember, he almost pulled it off. I'm convinced if I had had a conversation with him 2 weeks before, and he changed his position 2 weeks earlier, that the destiny of America might have been different.
It really would have been.
Big difference.
That was a choice at that time. It really was a real choice.
I think I just happened to be in the right place at the right. I walked in the room with John Siegenthaler and Eamon Evans, and he was sitting in there with his doctor, and by the name of Edgar Berman, a great man, and a guy by the name of Jim Rowe, a great Washington lawyer who was a big friend of Lyndon Johnson's. And I walked in and pop, here's the money. Now let me just tell you, you're going to lose, and nobody's going to cry. Nobody's going to give a damn if you lose, because you haven't stood up for what was right. And if you want to do something right, care how bad you lose, tell them you're going to stop this war. And it was magic. He changed his position. If you get John Siegenthaler on this program again, I think he'll tell you that he watched him sitting in that room change his position on something as crucial as that. You know, he was very concerned that Lyndon, that the president would be infuriated with him and that the downside to changing his position might endear him to others, but it would so alienate the president that the president would see that he lost notwithstanding.
Very good. Let me interrupt here for this second commercial.